What's up, boys and girls? This is Spit Logic. Today, what I want to do is kind of talk about, discuss, go over not just drums when we talk about rhythm, but also percussion and kind of the difference between the two. Really, when you're talking about drums, you're talking about something that kind of holds on to or maintains the rhythm within the song or anything that you're making. But percussion, I would consider that not necessarily separate, but it's an additive and it does a couple of things when dealing with your drums. I think number one, what it does is that it enhances the drums. It makes it a little bit more dynamic overall. I think it also acts as kind of a trait to kind of transition between different segments or different parts of your song by adding a little bit of extra percussion. And then lastly, I also think that it gives you the ability to formulate your music, formulate kind of something that is intricate to your overall song when you're using percussion as a part of what your drums are, but also something that acts standalone, separate from the overall song through the use of the percussion. So even though, just for the purposes of this video, I'm going to be using the workflow and the SP44 Mark II to kind of discuss this, really, I feel like this can be applied to really any sort of workflow, whether you use a DAW or some sort of gear. So I'm going to go ahead and get my headphones on, and we're going to take a look at what we have here on the SP44 Mark II. So on my Mark II right here, I already have a full suite of different percussion, different sort of drum-like instruments. Of course, here's the classic kick, snare, hi-hat, cymbal right there. This top row right here are my toms. So really when we're talking about drums, we're talking about the entire drum kit. The toms right here. And then this row right here is going to be focused on my hand drums. So these three right here are kind of different. They were what I would consider more metallic type or outside. Well, with the exception of this one. This is the shaker, but triangle right there, the tambourine, and then right here is just a sound effect. That sound right there. And I put the gate on this one. I left the gate on this one on purpose. And you know what, while we're at it, I think I want to add a little bit more things because, when it comes to percussion, I would categorize it as a few different types. I think hand drums is typically one type of percussion. Any kind of bongos or even tambourines, anything that is percussion, that is drums that you use on your hands. That's what I would consider one type of percussion. I think there's also a type of percussion that is an enhancer that goes along with the overall drum kit that you're using. The hi-hats, the cymbals, open or close hi-hats, even the toms to me are kind of those enhancers. And then we get into what I would consider just kind of anything that you hit that makes some sort of sound. And that percussion is kind of in a class all its own. It's the things like dropping a plate or punching a wall or hitting a trash can. Those noises that make a loud percussive sound are added and can be put into your drums to make percussion. I'm just going to start making drums and just start adding on to it. And we're going to do, let's play this like a game. We'll do 16 different patterns on here, right? Let's go ahead and get started on pattern 1. We'll do 4 bars for each pattern, and then we'll leave it at 50% strength. So we'll just start off with a regular drum. Here we go. Copy that, and then let's just add hi-hat to enhance. So now that we have that, let's go ahead and let's add the hand drums to this going forward. All right, here we go. Indecisiveness on drumming. But luckily that 50% quantization saved me. Let's add this. All right, we'll add triangle to it, right? This is the So remember when I talked about the transition part, I'm going to use the toms at the end, the transition at the end, the last quarter of this, right? And then we'll use this little sprinkle that I have gated. There's a reason why. So I've used everything on this pad, right? Okay, so, as you follow the progression, we went from very simple, very regular drum, and then adding all of those different elements to it, we ended up with this drum right here. A very, very different type of sound from where we first started, right? Now, I think that there's also another thing that you can add to it, and this is something that I discovered when I was making my own music. And essentially, when you're dealing with different melodies and different beats, in order to, if you want those hard-hitting drums, if you want your percussion to stand out, typically on the track, you kind of dub the drums on there more than once. You put 2 layers of drums on there. I would say that when you're dealing with percussion and adding percussion on here, one good thing that you can do is add a secondary drum with kind of a different pattern, but then the way that you phrase it, the way that you manipulate that particular drum, and we're about to get into it, that can also enhance your drum and give you an additional option for rising and falling with how much percussion you want at any given time. So what we're going to do, I'm going to go to another bank and I'm going to create another pattern different from the one that we initially made. So we'll record here, brand new pattern. We'll make it the 4 bars. And this will just be just a regular beat. Different pattern from before, right? We'll add some hi-hat to that too. Different kind of hi-hat. Okay, so I'm going to stick with that. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to just copy this one and turn it into an audio file. I'm going to just render this as an audio file. So I hit that pattern select and let's place it down on pad 16 in bank H. That's where I'm going to bring it. So now, the good thing about turning these patterns into samples, you now have a perfectly made loop. This loop is perfect right now, right? So I'm going to take the gate off, put it as loop, and since this is a louder drum, you don't really want it to compete against the current drum that you have. You want it to be kind of enhancing as a part of it. So a few things I'm going to do. I'm going to go to my effects, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to my isolator. I'm going to take off. Actually, what I think I'll do super filter. Actually, no, we'll do isolator. I think that's a better option because I want it completely isolated. If I can find isolator. Kind of take that low end off. I want to bring that mid down. And I want to bring that high up. All right. All right, I'm going to add a second effect. I think I want to go with the phaser on here. Maybe the flanger. Yeah, let's do that. Now let's go right here. All right. So I'm going to exit there and I'm just going to hit mark because it's been recording the entire time. And right now, everything that I've been doing has already been recorded on here. So I'm going to keep this, hit that record button. We'll put it in pad 13. And then I'm just going to cut it. And of course, this is where I'm going to have to cut it myself to get it at its proper place, right? Okay, so now that I have this additional beat made, I'm going to add it to my sequence of patterns that I've made here, right? So let me copy this and add it to make it another layer. And what I'm going to do for this one, I'm going to record, I'm going to bring this quantization up to 100% because I want this to be perfectly on the mark for this, right? In pad 13. Can you hear the difference? Can you hear the difference? Let's see. Let's see if you can hear the difference. Another thing that you can do, dealing with percussion and adding to it, there's a feature here on the Mark II that allows you to, so for the most part, when you have the pads maxed out as far as how much pressure is on them, no matter how much you push them, when you hit that shift button and at 16 velocity, it brings up a scale 1 to 16 on the intensity that you would have when you're pressing down on that pad. So it gives you kind of a variation that you can add to your music. So I think I'm gonna use this one and use that in the 16 velocity. So let me go back to my pattern. I'm gonna copy this one and we're gonna add to that pattern. And we're not going at 100%, we'll keep it at 50%. So it's the same sound, but at various intensity levels or velocity levels as you would have it. Now another variation that you can do with your percussion is putting it in chromatic mode. So we'll go with this sound right here, and I'm going to copy that. And we're going to go into chromatic mode, and we'll chromatic this particular. That sounded awful. It sounds awful. So I'm going to erase all of it. So the other thing that you can do in addition to creating a new pattern and utilizing that pattern as kind of another auxiliary part to it. Let's just take this beat right here, this fully made drum beat right here, and let's go ahead and render this to an audio file as well. So we'll use 15 for this one. We'll just render this fully into an audio file, and then we're going to add some more effects to it, and by doing that, creating another kind of soundscape that will enhance what's going on with this one. And with this one, since I have so much going on with this one and I took a lot of the highs out of it, I think what I'll do is, I took a lot of the lows out of it. I think what I want to do is take the highs out of this one. And this is just another drum, right? And we'll do what we did before. We'll just use Mark. And now we have that isolated. It has a little distortion to it as well. So let's go ahead and use that one. I will put it on pad 14. And we'll find the beginning and end of that one. That sounds close enough. I think there was a little bit of delay. Let's say close enough. I'm gonna truncate it anyway. Take the loop off, and then we'll add that to this. Let's make another one, and we'll record on this one, put the quantization all the way up to 100, and add this one. So essentially now you have, just a very full suite of drums. You can do different variations with them, even as you just play along with it right now. So I'm going to play this with all the percussion going. And what I'll do, I'm going to get into mute mode, right? And let's just mute different parts of this. So that's going to do it for this video. Really, the biggest takeaway that I would want you to get from this is that in the same way, in the same vein that you are concentrating on creating that melody, layering those different sounds, layering those different pieces to come together to create something. I think you should not neglect the rhythm, what kind of holds time and space together with your music, and enhancing that and creating that with as much care and as much thought as you would with the melody, with the different sounds, and how you use and layer them on your beats. As always, I thank you for the view, I thank you for the listen, and until next time, peace.